super hot mic, super hot mic. So I'm gonna just hold it this way. Hi everyone, my name's Tane Danger. I am the host of a thing called the Theater of Public Policy. Thank you. This is better. I'm the host of the Theater of Public Policy. I love to start shows like this, so by a quick round of applause, who has never... Just hang on one second. A quick round of applause. Who has never seen the Theater of Public Policy before? See, half of people never come back. So thank you. For those of you who did, what do? Our show, normally what we do is we take a very smart person and we'll interview them on stage about an idea or a public policy topic or something like that. And then we have this team of amazing improvisers who take everything that they say and they bring it to life through entirely unscripted theater. Tonight is a little different because this is our unscripted St. Paul Mayoral Forum. Very exciting. So I want to do a couple quick thank yous before we get started. First off, how many folks have not been to North Garden Theater before? This beautiful new theater here. Yes. So a tremendous thanks. This is a brand new theater here on West 7th. As you can see, it is a beautiful space. Me and several of the cast members you'll see tonight actually have just started doing improv shows here on Sunday nights, but they have a whole variety of different theater productions. They also rent this as an event space if you're looking for a place for your holiday party, all these kinds of things. It is a wonderful place, and it's a really great addition to this very vibrant neighborhood already. We are super excited to be here and to have all of you in this space with us. So thank you so much to the North Garden Theater. Thank you all for being here. I also want to say a big thank you to The Uptake, who is live streaming this, and a big round of applause, everybody watching on the live stream. Yay! Very exciting. There's a lot of folks hopefully watching live right now. What they are not getting, that you all who are here in person got though, is some delicious free ice cream. Yay! Which is a big part of, because this tonight's event is supported by a grant from the Joy of Voting organization and Citizens University, who decided that doing an improv mayoral forum is something that was worth supporting and something worth putting some Ben & Jerry's ice cream connected to. So a tremendous thanks to them, to the folks from Ben & Jerry's, everybody all around. It's gonna be great. Super excited. All right, I think I did all the thank yous I'm supposed to. Okay, good enough, probably. Oh, thank you, Mom. All right, so I am super excited. As I said, the Theater of Public Policy, we have a team of amazing improvisers that brings everything we do to life through entirely unscripted theater. This seems like a very appropriate moment for the cast of the Theater of Public Policy to quickly run in front of the stage here so that you can meet them all and know who they all are. So please, big round of applause. Fred, Carmen, Andrew, Joy. Chad's on the piano, and then hiding back over there is Brandon Boat, who deserves a very big round of applause because he did a lot of the work to make tonight happen, and he is still taking all of the photos, and thank you very much. So, all right. So tonight is very special because unlike most of our shows where we have maybe one smart person or two smart people, tonight we have a whole slate of very talented folks who are all running to be the next mayor of St. Paul. And so we're going to invite them out here one by one. Please make a big round of applause. I know some of them at least gave Chad specific requests for what they wanted to be played onto. So they're all hiding behind the door, so I don't even know exactly what order to introduce them in, but I'll just start with, because she was the first one that I saw get here, I'm going to say, please make a big round of applause, Elizabeth Dickinson! Yay! Come on down. Very good, yes, and you already picked a seat for yourself, so that's great. You staked it out, I love it. So the second person I saw walk in, I believe, was Thao. So big round of applause, Thao. Third I saw walk in. Please, a round of applause one more time for Pat Harris! And fourth, and I don't know if this is the order that they all should. This is the order I saw them in. So don't. There's no tardiness like demerit. So please, a big round of applause, Mr. Tom Goldstein.
The minister of silly walks.
And keep it going. One more for Melvin Carter. Yay! And then I have to say, so we originally got a note that Tim Holden was going to come, but I have not seen him. Is he hiding somewhere? Is he a dramatic entrance? Is he going to come from the raft? If he comes, everyone will applaud when he gets here. All right, yay! A big round of applause, all of our candidates. That we wanted to start this, and we started some of our other forums this way, is I've actually gone through the process of watching a lot of these forums already. Pray for me. But so I've seen all the opening statements already. I want to skip forward to 4 years from now. So in 4 years from now, in all likelihood, one of you will have already been mayor for 4 years. So what I would love for you to do is take turns coming to the stage here and giving the address of what is the state of St. Paul in the year 2021 now that you have been mayor for 4 years. So this is a retrospective opening statement. Flash forward to 2021. On your mark gets, who wants to go first? I should have said that. Yeah, who wants to go first? I'll hand you this one. Apparently, I would still be a little careful, but we've turned it down, apparently.
St. Paul 2021. In the year 2021. Okay, St. Paul 2021. I want this city, first of all, thank you for allowing us to be here. What a great night. This is really fun. I'm really happy to be here. Isn't it? It's good. So, in the year 2021, I want St. Paul to be a fun city, to be a great city, to be a city that has opportunity for all, that has housing for all, that has jobs with livable wages for all, that's a clean city, that's a safe city, that's got vibrant parks and vibrant libraries that are open and they got books in them, they got everything in them. That's pretty good. And that's what I did in my 4 years as mayor. I made this city, I kept this city, the great city that it is, the city that I grew up in, the city that I love, the city where you can walk outside your door and you can go to the store, you can have something to eat, you can be safe, you can go to a high quality school, and you can just live in a city that is a family city where at the end of the day everybody's looking out for each other. That's the city in my 4 years that I just spent as mayor. That's the city that we created. It was the city that I grew up in, the city that I love, and as I leave the mayor's office right now, right here tonight, I really believe that we did that, and we kept the city strong, healthy, and vibrant. I started, so why not? So that's all right.
So when in 2021 is it? Is it January 1st? Is it January 15th?
It's the Monday before Thanksgiving.
Okay. So everybody, I know we're still celebrating the exit of Donald Trump from the White House. I do want to announce that we have a special on sandbags at City Hall. You can now pick up a dozen for $2, and we have an unlimited supply, so you can all sandbag around your houses to stop the flooding coming in from the Mississippi. It turns out that global warming was real. So as a city, we're going to continue building the wall along the Mississippi to protect downtown, and those living on the bluffs are obviously doing very well, as they've always done, because they are able to be above the rest of us. But we have solved a lot of problems. We didn't build any stadiums in the 4 years that I was mayor because we'd already built all of them, and there just weren't any left. We actually decided to fund playgrounds and libraries, and we rebuilt rec centers that we tore down so that kids had access. And we actually created broadband network for everyone, so we are now a gig city. We are the gig city of the upper Midwest, and everyone has access to the internet. We've attracted $2 billion worth of investment. We have a tech corridor along University Avenue that's created thousands and thousands of jobs. Unemployment is down to 0.5% because we've done an amazing thing on job creation. Using that money, we actually have increased the tax base for once, so now we're able to build affordable housing so everyone has safe and secure housing, and job creation is happening, entrepreneurs are here, and we've continued to build our effort to have the most coffee shops and brew pubs in America. And last, poverty is something that we talk about openly and honestly because we are actually dealing with it. And we have a multicultural government where everyone has a place, and our district councils are fully functioning and funded, and everybody has a chicken in a pot and a car in the garage. Thank you very much.
Big round of applause, Tom Goldstein. Who wants to go? Thao, you want to go next? All right, please, Thao.
So this is the State of the City address. I'm at the podium, and they have step stool in the back so that I could see everybody, right? So it's been 4 years since you hire or elect the tallest mayor in the history of St. Paul. And because of his victory and the things that he and you got done together, more short people across the United States are running for office. And they should, because by that time, the city of St. Paul would have been one of the most powerful cities in the city of St. Paul. Why? Because we drew the line against hate, against rhetoric. We're united across race, across culture, across gender, across generation, fighting for each other, fighting for each other's hope, fighting for each other's dream, all working to fulfill the promise of what America is all about, coming together and solving problems together. The Minnesota Wild and the Minnesota United FC team, both a world championship. Right? Finally, yes. We have more young people working in our city. Our kids learn how to resolve conflict without using violence. We have more kids in all-day pre-K than the last 5 years. We have more racial harmony than ever, and our police department are treating everybody across this city with dignity and respect. When they see our kids on the street, they treat our kids like they treat their kids. When they see our elders in the street, they treat our elders like their elders. We have more startup for millennials, women, immigrant, and African American business ever in the history in the city of St. Paul. All right? Hey, that's a big deal. And you are saying, Thao, we know you're the little guy, but you're scrappy, you work hard, you don't quit, you go to work before the sun comes up, you don't go home until the sun goes down, and we want you to run again, to lead us into the future. All right? And a quick bonus, because I'm an IT professional, and I've been doing that for 16 years, I was able to go to Seattle and bring Amazon to Arden Hill. Thank you.
Incredible ones. I tell, yay! And it looks like Melvin Carter is making his way up here, so please, big round of applause.
Thank you, sir. Good evening. Thank you all for coming out today with me to the year 2021. I really appreciate you all being here. Some of us got here 4 years early, so I appreciate that as well. I'm Melvin Carter, and I'm excited to have served you these last 4 years in St. Paul. I'm excited about where we are as a city right now, and I'm equally excited about where we're going next as a city. 4 years ago, we had a conversation about getting out of the mode of chasing symptoms around and said, we as a city are gonna start addressing core issues where jobs and our economy is concerned. We're gonna get out of this kind of perennial cycle of whether we're gonna cut services on the thousands of people who need them or raise taxes. We got out of that by growing our city and by approaching things like the Ford plant with a big vision for the future of our city so that we know we're building St. Paul for the future. When we start talking about jobs, we realized the goal wasn't to give $100 million to banks or to invest in those institutions, but the goal was to address, we realized as a city that in the Twin Cities metro area back in 2017, it's hard to remember, but back in 2017, remember we realized there were more job vacancies than job seekers in our city? So we realized our challenge was to address the barriers that are disconnecting people from our economy. That's why we built our city based on making sure that our schools could provide an education, a high quality education for all of our children. And we expanded the St. Paul Promise neighborhood and made sure we were helping families. That's why we invested in transit, and we've got Riverview Corridor underway, and we've got more and more projects underway. That's why we invested in early education, so we know we can get our children off to a great start. And that's also why we weaned our city off of our addiction of thinking that public safety is only about hiring more and more and more cops. We realized that's what got us into this mess in the first place. That's what overcriminalized and marginalized people from whole communities out of our society. That was what was destabilizing our community. And so we took a different route. We said safe communities are built on stable communities where families could afford to pay the rent, put food on the table, where children could feel hopeful about their future. We realized that safety is about police officers who are from our community, who know our community, who reflect our diversity, and who have a stake in our neighborhoods. And we realized that none of it would work without that trust in the center. That's why we worked hard to revise the use of force policies so that we can all be on one accord about when our officers are and are not authorized to use force. That's why we established those mental health response teams so that when our officers met people in crisis, we could connect them to help and know we didn't have to use force. And that's exactly why we elevated the visibility of our civilian review team, because we knew that trust that's been broken in the light can't be rebuilt in the dark. We can build on all of those things. I'm excited to continue to do it as mayor for another 4 years. Thank you so much for being here.
And please, keep that enthusiasm going. Elizabeth Dickinson.
Well, I am so proud to stand here before you as the first female mayor in St. Paul who I am so proud that with your support, we were able to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour without negatively impacting small business, and that we were able to raise 68,000 St. Paulites out of poverty. I am so proud that we have been able to make the kind of impact in terms of renewable energy, that we have several new manufacturers of solar and wind in town, that people are starting to talk about St. Paul as the Midwest renewable energy capital of the upper Midwest. And I'm so proud that we have started to put solar on a dozen of our schools, saving both the planet and saving the school district money. And we've done this with all kinds of innovative financing systems that have saved the taxpayer money. I am so proud that we've been able to make all of these kinds of impacts, and I've been able to do it because of all of your help. I have been present in the community for the past 4 years. I have been at your district council meetings. I have been in the community, and I am so happy that you have found me so accessible, that you come up and tell me what's on your heart and your mind, and that I am able to bring that back. I am able to bring back all of your suggestions and to act on at least some of them. I'm proud that so many of our immigrants have said that they feel safer, even though we have not been able necessarily always to impact what goes on at the national level, that here we have been able to preserve a sanctuary city, and that our immigrants feel safe and welcome. And I am also proud about how the police force is changing. It's changing its whole mission from one of aggression to one of protection, and that the way that we promote police officers has changed because of the feedback from the community. And the community and the police have been working together to reduce gun violence by almost 50% in 4 years because of this intensive community policing that we've been doing. And finally, I'd just like to say that I want and I welcome your feedback for the next 4 years. I want you to feel that you are a part of my administration, that you are important to me individually and as a community, and that going forward, you are part of my team. Thank you.
So that was great because we started to touch on several of the things that I'm hoping that we can get to here. And I told the candidates beforehand, my goal with this really, as much as possible, is to try and avoid the, I'm going to ask a question and each person just gets 2 minutes. I'm going to try and get us to actually have a conversation as much as possible. And I should say, in the second half of the event, we're going to open it up for you all to ask some questions. So, but let me start with this. One of the things, so Mr. Goldstein, in your thing, you said there have been no stadiums built while you've been mayor. Does that mean that 2021, Tom Goldstein has somehow found a way to stop like a soccer stadium from being built?
Well, the soccer stadium is going to be built. It's being built right now. I think it's more acknowledgement that all the professional sports have all the stadiums they need. I don't think that
the Swarm, the lacrosse, they could still.
they'll probably need their own venue as well.
But I mean, that obviously I'm taking a little bit of advantage of the exercise we did, but I have watched a lot of these forums, and it does seem like there's a lot of back and forth on who supported or who didn't support the soccer stadium. And so I guess the question going forward is, what's different depending on who's mayor if that is already going to be built?
Well, to me, the issue has always been public funding of stadiums and whether they actually provide a return to the community. The economic data is clear that they don't. It doesn't mean they don't have a psychic value. It doesn't mean that people aren't sports fans and go to games. But the idea that you go to a game and somehow it leads to all this economic development in the city, we would, if we held a raffle, which maybe is one of the things I would do as mayor. Every Friday we have a raffle. We give away $10,000. We do that once a week, and you have to be present to collect the prize. If we did that, not only would we bring a ton of people into downtown who would shop at the bars and restaurants waiting for the raffle, the giveaway, but it would actually cost us less than what we're paying annually just for the Saints ballpark. So
again, I'm going to just go back to the question, though, which is if the premise here is that it's already, the ship has sailed, what's different if you're mayor versus one of these other folks in that space? In the space of the Saints Stadium or the Minnesota United Stadium?
Well, I'm not going to blow the stadiums up, so they'll still be there. I mean, there can't be anything different because that's what they're. We have to move on and actually find money in other places because those venues are not generating revenue for the city. So we're sort of stuck with them, And we have to, you know, when a site is tax exempt, as both of those parcels are, and don't pay any taxes, we're going to have to make up the revenue somewhere else if we're going to, you know, as a city, if we're going to have the resources we need.
So let me throw this open to everybody here. I think at a previous forum, Mr. Goldstein and Mr. Holden, who weren't here, made points to the effect of that you can either invest in things like stadiums or whatnot, or you can invest in, I think the quote, I have the quote here, we can either have entertainment complexes or we can invest in neighborhoods and the community. We can't do both. I'm wondering if anybody up here agrees or disagrees with that statement.
Well, hello. I disagree with that. You know, I serve on the St. Paul Port Authority, and so one of our job is to recruit folks to come and invest in that area. And we did a national RFI, which request proposal for interest. And one of the first things that business look at is can that area support their business? And they look at it. It's a it's a impoverished neighborhood, transitional housing, senior housing, and so they weren't interested. Plus, there's contamination on that site because it used to be the streetcar shelter and bus shelter. So that's the background, right? But I supported this program, and I represent that district, and I know because it's going to be a catalyst for this city with our tax base. And this is a $150 million privately funded stadium, so it's one of the best deals that we have in the state of Minnesota. Now, the $18 million that the city's putting in there, whether you put a senior complex or a Home Depot, you still have to pay for the street grid. And so, but here are the benefit, right? So what I did with that deal was that I put in there a operating benefit agreement that says if you put a stadium there, every game you have to give us 1,000 tickets for low-income families to come there. You also have to make sure that there's seniors and affordable housing on that site, the north of the soccer stadium. We're also asking for incubator space because we are strategically wanting for millennials, women, immigrant, and African-American business to utilize that space to build their market. And once they build their market, then we want to move them into other parts of the city. And so this is a very strategic strategy that we have to grow our city. Now, right behind that incubator space is what we call the innovation zone that would bring an entrepreneur from across the city to be in the same space as venture capitalists like Piper Jeffrey. And so that they can know what's hot on the market, and if the venture capitalist supports that small business, the city can match it up to $25,000, so that's $50,000. My administration will help them acquire the small business loan, which is $250,000, and this is how we build our economy. We build in the demographic very equitable so that we can build wealth in the city, increase our tax revenue, and make sure that we all thrive together. That's why I support it. It's a good deal for the city of St. Paul.
I just want to get clear on one language piece about this. You said we're asking for the incubator space. Is that for sure going to happen, or is it something we're asking for?
You know, as mayor and as the council person that represent that area, I have initiated these ideas and these plans. Now, as mayor, those are the things that I'm going to be championing. And we have seen this work on the east side. We've seen it that work in the Hmong Village. We can do, for example, combined kitchen. Each commercial kitchen costs anywhere from $175,000 to $250,000. If we put a commercial kitchen there, the city subsidizes that, but we can have 3 to 4 restaurants sharing that kitchen so that they can have cash flow. Instead of paying for their debt, they can create cash flow and hire folks and pay people $15 an hour.
So it seems like this is one place where it might matter who's mayor while this process is going forward, potentially.
Absolutely. That's
so,
I mean,
yes.
with all due respect, the agreement that Councilmember Thao is talking about, there is no agreement. He proposed something that's purely voluntary. The team has not committed to anything. If we had a community benefits agreement, which I had sent Mr. Thao some recommendations that the team would actually match that money and put it into the community where we need it, it would be a different story. But all these things, you know, that site was never marketed to anybody except the team. and it is tax exempt, and we are cleaning it up at public expense. And the infrastructure is happening is specific to the team's needs. It's not the same kind of infrastructure that would be done if we built other things.
So I'm going to go back to my sort of general question here, which is, if you're mayor, what's different about how that process moves forward than the other folks up on
I'd
stage?
insist on a community benefits agreement that actually had teeth and actually brought revenue to the city.
Okay.
Well, I'm not an eye doctor, so I'm not gonna say I know more than what an eye doctor can do. You know what I mean?
Pat Harris has been trying to jump in, and so I want to make sure he gets a
Well,
chance.
I really just want to say I want in on Tom's raffle. Totally in on. Let's get that thing going. And but I will say that I think you can do both. I support the soccer stadium. I think Di provided some leadership on that on the city council. There has been 1,000 iterations of developments in that area for 30, 40 years, and each of them has failed. And this is one that has over almost $150 million of private investment, a small amount of city money when you look at what its impact is going to be to young people, to the surrounding economy, to the overall tax base. And soccer is the world's sport. I mean, this is a really incredible chance to have something very, very special in St. Paul. And I do support community benefits agreements. When I was recently chair of the Visit St. Paul board, I helped to negotiate the Lynx, the world champion Minnesota Lynx, I will say that. Absolutely. And I helped to negotiate them to be at the Xcel Energy Center for the last year, and we actually negotiated an agreement where they did provide 500 tickets to low-income youth throughout St. Paul, and that worked out famously. It was a great year for the Lynx in so many different ways, and a great year for the community. So we can do both. If you understand budgets and you understand money, you can do things for the libraries and rec centers and do things, and then do very, very innovative and forward-thinking things like that soccer stadium.
So we so far have, I think, 3 candidates who've all said you support a community benefits agreement. Mr. Goldstein added with teeth. I'm curious. So I'm trying to help voters figure out, like, what's different. Who's different? Why you? And you are nodding. Do you want to jump in on this?
Yeah, I would say with it, you know, I'm not a big fan of publicly funding of stadiums, but now that it's a done deal, essentially, I think that we do need a community benefits agreement, and I think part of the ways that you make sure there's teeth in there are that there are clawback provisions. In other words, some of the public funding gets taken back if the promises that are made are not fulfilled. And
like, can you give us an example maybe of something?
well, I mean, if you were going to, you know, if they promise there are going to be so many jobs that are provided by the stadium, first of all, are they living wage jobs? You know, and if they don't fulfill that, if there are fewer jobs and they're not at the level at which we consider livable, then they would have to forfeit or give back some of the money. I mean, that would be an easy one, I would think.
Living wage jobs, local hiring, local contracting with local businesses as well. Those are the types of things, and affordable housing, as if we think about the full kind of super block there in Midway. Those are the types of things that I would like to see in a community benefits agreement with a accountability provisions put in there that pull back city funding from projects that don't meet their goals and the promises that they've provided for taxpayers.
So this is a.
I really appreciate that they're supporting the work that I've been doing on it, and as mayor, I'm going to continue to do that work. Amen.
This is a great segue into, because you brought up livable wages, this question of a $15 minimum wage, which I know has been brought up at some different things. When you brought it up in your sort of retrospective opening statement, I saw several people applauding. But I wanted to ask you to clarify something I heard you say earlier, and even you mentioned it here, a $15 minimum wage with protections for small businesses. What does that second half of that statement mean?
It basically means that there's a slower phase in. I mean, we're using the terms 4 to 7 years of phasing it in. So if you're a larger business, you phase it in more quickly, and if you're a smaller business, you know, you have a bit of a longer time period to phase it in.
And so maybe if you're, you know, like a Eco Lab, it's within 4 years, and if you're Keys Cafe, it's within 7 years or something like that?
Yeah, and I mean, we're talking about, for the most part, a 75-cent an hour raise, you know, each year until we reach 15, and then having it indexed to inflation. And most of the businesses that I've spoken with have said, you know, with a long enough phase-in period, they can deal with it, including places like Rainbow Healthcare, which is a Hmong-owned personal care business, where a lot of their payments are capped by Medicare and Medicaid, so they need time to be able to go back to the legislature, go back, and make sure that the subsidies they're getting keep pace so that they can actually do that and still make a profit.
Does anybody up here disagree with this proposal for moving a $15 for a $15 minimum wage, or this way of doing it? Would anybody either not do it or do it differently?
I think my experience from championing the Earn Sick and Save Time in the city of St. Paul, this is the ordinance across the city that allow any employee to take care of the sick child or they're in a domestic situation. They can take care of that situation without fear of losing their job and being paid at the hourly rate that they normally work. And so, so I've been very prepared to take on the $15 an hour conversation. And so I do agree that we have to protect our small businesses, because we have to understand that small businesses have different revenue stream. And so, for example, the daycare or the adult daycare, they get their revenue from the state, and that's control, right? So it's a limited income. But for restaurant owners and for other small types of business, their income is different. So we can't just craft one ordinance that works for everybody. We have to be smart. We have to ensure that our business in St. Paul continue to thrive. And if that means that the city has to provide more marketing strategy for them, or helping them rebrand, or whatever that might be, so that if for the big corporation like Ecolab, it should be automatic $15 an hour, for example. And then for the smaller mom and pop shop, we got to go in there, get dirty, roll up our sleeve, and work with them to make sure that incrementally over a certain amount of time, depending on what type of business they are, they can get to $15 an hour.
There were a lot of caveats in that, over a certain amount of time in different kinds of businesses. I'm just trying, is it ultimately everyone's at $15 under
I think
Thao
that is
administration?
it's a conversation that needs to be had. I think we have to be respectful of the small businesses and their struggle. Small business owner, it doesn't make sense for them to get pay themselves $10 an hour, but then they're forced to pay their employee $15. That's not good for anybody. But the way my vision for getting to that point is that I would like to invite the St. Paul Area Chamber of Commerce to go into the homes of folks who are making $10 an hour, to see this everyday struggle of poor people in Frogtown on the east side, and what's that's like to not have food on the table, to not know where and when they're going to be able to pay their rent, or do they choose to buy boots for their kids, or to starve. I think it's important for the really wealthy folks to see that. But at the same time, I also think it's important for the activist and community member to go into the restaurant and to see how slow it might be on a Friday night, and how pinched they are to try to make payroll. I think that's the kind of conversation we need to have. That's the kind of leadership we need in the city of St. Paul, that's bold, that's progressive, but that can unite us and bring us together, because we're in this together. We're not in this against each other.
So it's sort of the Oliver Twist version of a minimum wage battle here. So I'm going to, you wanted to jump.
I think the ultimate challenge in St. Paul, where our economy is concerned, really is, as I said, 4 years from now, it really is the challenge that so many people are locked out of our economy. And there's so many barriers. And one of the core barriers that faces so many St. Paul families is when people work full time and are still stuck living in poverty. And I think it's important. I support one fair wage at $15 an hour. I don't support a tip penalty because I've worked for tips before, and I know that they don't produce the type of predictability that we want and stability that we want. That's the goal of raising the minimum wage.
And so is your proposal similar then to Elizabeth Dickinson's here, or is it different somehow?
Yeah, I think our proposals would be I imagine we all agree that we need to phase that in over time. I think we also need leadership from the mayor's office to push back on the notion that raising the minimum wage is bad for our economy, because families being able to participate in our local economy here, being able to shop at the stores that they work at, being able to eat at the restaurants that they work at, is actually good for our economy.
Well, I had a small business for 15 years, and so I actually ran a business and I employed people, and I know the pressure of having to be able to be successful, to be able to meet payroll. I mean, for the first 4 years that I was in business, I put money back into growing my business and basically took almost no salary. That, to me, is fairly typical of people going to business. So if the requirements to be in business are that you have to be able to pay everyone $15 an hour, because I'm not talking about right now, but if we're at the 7-year mark or the 4-year mark or whatever the phase-in period would be, the only people that are going to be able to go into business are those who are well-funded or those who already have a lot of money to begin with. So if I were mayor, I would implement a $15 an hour wage in 2 years for all large corporations, which to me are the ones that are the source of exploitation, that have money and have chosen not to share it with their workers, and that also have built businesses on low-wage economy. That to me is I understand the $15 an hour campaign. You can't do nuance in campaigns. So having a broad vision is great for campaigning.
I'll ask you for a nuance. What is large?
Well, that's to me what needs to be figured out. What is large? But 100 employees in Minneapolis, and we also, we've had one study in Minnesota talking about the impacts and one study in Seattle. I don't want to see the unintended consequences possibly happen. Nobody should work for a poverty wage, but the idea that small business alone is supposed to solve that. Healthcare is the biggest driver of people's misery in life, the lack of it. So $15 an hour is not a livable wage if you don't have health care. So if there are businesses right now that are offering health care and paying $12.68 an hour, will they drop the health care in order to get to 15? Those are some real practical issues that aren't as sexy as $15 for everything,
sure,
but it's the reality.
Just to nail down this proposal then, it's $15 an hour over a period of about 2 years for large businesses, and then that's the extent of it, or is there another piece to it?
No,
or,
I just think we have to have a phase, and I mean, we haven't really had conversation with small businesses. My conversation with small business has not been what Elizabeth, even I've been to some of the same places as her where workers have expressed different opinions than what she's reported. So small business to me needs to buy in, and I think we need to have that tough discussion to get the buy-in so we figure out how we can get everybody to $15 an hour, whether it's in 4 years or 6 years or 7 years. But corporations right now should be there now. I would do it tomorrow, except that would be a lot of political pushback, but it's certainly by 2020, which Target has set the bar, saying they're going to do it, everybody should be able to follow suit, if not sooner.
Right. And I know you
That's where I'd start, because it will also put pressure on small businesses. If it works, it'll put pressure on small businesses to get there much sooner in order to be competitive, to get good employees. If they can't pay the money and people want to work for corporations, small business will have to find a way to compete in order to attract help.
What?
Sure. Well, I think Tom makes some great points about benefits, and I think that needs to be part of the discussion. And I definitely support a $15 an hour wage. I mean, a better way to do it is the way we did it in St. Paul on contracts, which was 110% of the poverty level for a family of 4, which is about $16.40, and you will continually index that, but somehow the discussion has targeted onto this $15 an hour wage, which I support. I definitely think Elizabeth is right. You need to pare it out. You need to take it out a little bit to make sure that it's not having an adverse effect right away. I did spearhead the first increase to the minimum wage in the state of Minnesota at the Airports Commission, which was indexed. I will tell you this, though, as the son of a 30-year small business owner in downtown St. Paul, we have to look at the total cost of doing business. If you go around the corner here to Skinner's Pub, Molly and Pete Skinner, they're just trying to make it over there. They're just trying to get by, and they do safe and sick time last year, which I definitely support, and it was some great leadership on the city council. But 3 weeks later, they slap them with an increase in their licensing fees. And so how do you just pile it on businesses like one after the other? And so why don't you say to Molly and Pete, we're going to do the safe and sick time, but you know what? We're going to lower your license fees. We're going to maybe lower some of the other fees that you have, and we're going to make it easier to run your business because you've now absorbed this higher cost. So for me, I do support that wage, but I believe it should be done in a package of the cost of doing business, and the other pieces of what the city does should be factored in that, as well as the things Tom's talking about benefits.
Not going to get to very many questions with all the applause breaks. I know that there's other people who want to jump in. You can jump in, but I really, only if it's like you actually have some additional policy piece to add to this, and not just that we should have more conversations, because we all agree on that.
I think it's important that voters are educated on the other unintended consequences of this, and from the work that I did on the poverty task force to lay the groundwork for the $15 an hour minimum wage, is that we have some of the unintended consequences is that I was talking to a mom, a single mom who lives on the east side, and she said, look, Di, if there is a $15 hour minimum wage, I stand to lose my Section 8 voucher, I stand to lose my child care and my medical coverage, because this is what allowed me to qualify for that. Now, if I make $15 an hour, that's $30,000 a year, and after taxes, that's roughly about $24,000 to $25,000. But that disqualifies her from all the other safety net program, and it's not enough for her to lift her family out of poverty. So we have to be real careful about making policy decisions that we think it feels good, but also it creates other unintended consequences that hurts our family even more. And so please keep that in mind, and this is the type of conversation we're going to have. And as mayor, that's why I would tap into the Citizens League to work with all of us to make sure that if we do, when that does happen, it works for all of us and not create more problem for our communities.
Did you want to do one more? Yeah.
Just that, there are people out there, and I know because I'm a small landlord, that are trying to make it. They're single moms, they're making $10 an hour, they're completely unsubsidized. And to get to $15 an hour would allow them, to do better than just get by. I mean, my apartments are less than market rate. And I know when I've tried to refer people who I've turned down, who I would have taken, except that, I could have filled my apartment, 10 times over. I've sent them to places that said they were affordable, and they weren't affordable for them because it would have meant another $100 a month or something for them. They can't afford that. So I think that has to be a mitigating factor. And the other thing is, when I talk to small businesses, there's some psychology here, which is if you listen long enough, they start to backtrack and they say, yeah, we could probably do it. It means we're not going to employ as many 15-year-olds in our business and give them a start. We might have 1 instead of 3, but we can do this. And they start to, and I talk about my experience, and they say, well, we want those people to thrive as well. And I just believe that if you give people enough space and you're not judgmental about it, and you allow them to share all of their concerns, at some point they work themselves into, yeah, we can do this. And if you give us enough time, we'll be able to deal with it. And that's just been my experience over and over.
So I want to change gears quickly, because we're getting toward the end of this first segment, but in one of the previous forums that I watched, there was a question about district councils and potentially reforming some of those. Everybody was very supportive of district councils. Everybody loves district councils. I don't know if that forum was sponsored by a district council, but everybody was very excited about them. So I just kind of want to cut to the chase and say, if you're mayor, is there something that would change about the way that district councils work now, or are funded now, or the relationship between them and the city than it is right now?
I have a proven track record of helping the district council, because I believe that the work that they do, the data shows that for every dollar that the city provides for them, they do $3 worth of service to the city of St. Paul. This is extremely important, especially in a time when we're struggling with our budget. What I would do as mayor is that I would find more resources for them to do crime prevention, to do more community building, instead of using money to demo homes or put those stall around empty lot. We would clear that up, create more community garden and butterfly garden, so we can build more community trust and relationship in the
more
community.
Resources for them? What is that? So does that mean more city dollars going towards them, or
into the district council? And I'll give you an example. Last year, I help fund a centralized database across all the different district council so that they can pull data, so they can use those data to better tell their story to funders and donors to continue to support the work that they do. And this centralized database also allow the district council to tell who is a slumlord, right, and how many property they have across the city, the GIS system. And so this is really good for our city. We need to continue to support the district council.
Would anybody do something? So this is one proposal: more funding, more resources. What would be different?
I will just sort of repeat what I said at that forum, which is that I think district councils are an important form of democracy that we have in the city. I mean, it is an elected position, and I would ensure their independence. I would not make it that if you don't toe the line with City Hall, you're going to be threatened with losing some resources, which has happened in the past decade, because I've seen situations like that. I would also make sure that in terms of the independence, because they're advising city council members, that we make sure that there is fairness and there is someone at the city, a staff position that coordinates. We've had in the past, we've had district council coordinators. Make sure we keep that as a permanent position. I'm not sure that involves any more money, but just so that there is a liaison between all the district councils who's helping ensure their independence, so they're not just simply an extension of the mayor's office.
What about to Thao's point, though? Would you do more resources toward them, or keep it the same? Or
everybody's, as I said before, people running in this race have made $1 billion worth of promises with about $100 million worth of dollars. So I don't want to promise something that that I'm not sure. There are some district councils that don't get enough funding, so changing the funding formula. But district councils also raise their own money, so I think technical advice and other things to help them with their independence, so they can secure their own resources and not be dependent on the city, where the mayor may be mercurial, as in the past, and not bring them money. They need to have some independence. So yeah, possibly.
Not mercurial of your mayor, of course.
Of course not.
Melvin Carter.
I do think that we could raise our investment in the district councils, and they've shown their ability to bring value, such that even a small amount of additional resources, they can do a lot with. The underlying challenge for our district councils, the biggest critique people have about our district councils, though, is always that they don't represent the full diversity of our community. And they're stuck in a paradox, and the reason they're stuck in a paradox is because part of the reason they don't is because they can't. If no one in City Hall is really listening to them and really empowering the position of the district councils, then of course people who are working 2 and 3 jobs, people who are trying to get their kids to school, and people who are kind of struggling with everyday life, they won't have a space for that. And so making sure that we're elevating the role of the district councils, and one of the ways we can do that is by saying we're going to bring that job more proactive. Too often we bring plans to the district councils that are already fully baked, and we say we need you to sign off on this, and the district council finds itself in a position where it's saying either yes or no, as opposed to getting on the front end and saying we're going to help build this vision together.
Yeah, and I do think that some of the meetings, they're constructed around a very Eurocentric idea that you come together once a month and you sit around a table and you have Robert's Rules of Orders and you have an agenda and you work through it. I think that they need to be encouraged to really go out into the community and to be part of the community and to diversify. Some of them need to diversify their boards, and some of them have made a real commitment to doing that, including, I think, the one along Payne-Phelan. And they're integrating some of the ideas from the Institute for Public Participation, which I think are, it's a really wonderful model, I think, for some of the other district councils.
So, following Robert's Rules of Orders, what motion and second would you make to actually get them to do some of that work?
I'm not familiar enough with Robert's Rules of Order myself.
Move to table.
Yeah, move to table.
Move to table.
Just kidding.
Yeah.
I am curious though, of course, I think that I'd be surprised if anybody here were to say, no, I don't want my district council to be more representative.
Right.
How do you actually do that?
Well, I think some of it is over food. Some of it is having potlucks. It's one of the things I've said is that, why don't you, before you start the meeting, have a community meal where you invite people and you just say, we'd like you to come to the community meal. We have a meeting afterwards, which you're more than welcome to stay for, but we'll be providing food. We invite you to bring food, from your different backgrounds, and we're going to sit and we'd just like to get to know you better. And that's a lot of very intensive one-on-one kind of community organizing work where you go out and you say, hey, there's a group of us meeting and we'd like you to come and be a part of it. We'd like to know our neighbors better. It's being very intentional, going to Somali leaders, going to Hmong leaders, going to Latino leaders and saying, we want to be more representative. We know this, this may not be the most comfortable way of doing it, and so we'd like to start by just having a meal and getting to know you.
I know Pat wanted to jump there, but I'll just say real quick that district councils need to know that what the work that they do is going to be valued and honored. If it's not, if there is simply, as Melvin said, they're just simply signing off on something and their work is not respected, then people are not going to make the effort to be a part of it. But if it feels like the work is really meaningful and it will be listened to and their recommendations will be followed more often than they're not, then I think that's one way to help encourage people to get involved, because you genuinely will have a voice, as opposed to it's something you just show up once a month and the same people are doing it 20 years later that were doing it 20 years ago.
Or 40 or 60, yes.
I'm a former president of the McAllister-Groveland Community Council, and we were industry leading in so many ways. We had our own recycling contract. We had a block program that was incredible. We were one of the innovators of the neighborhood cleanup programs. We had all these things going because we had a phenomenal community organizer, and a lady by the name of Kathy Tarnowski, who is sadly no longer with us, but she was just truly unbelievable. And I really believe that and she was a mentor of mine, and I really believe that the district council coordinator position is important. It needs to be stabilized. When I got to the city council, I put it back in the budget, but the things coming in and out of the budget, it needs to be stabilized as a permanent position in the city that can't be removed at the end of every budget session. And that position has to be funded, and training for community organizers has to be funded. The funding stream has to be stabilized. The district councils need better access to the sales tax program, and they need to be empowered. But making sure that this coordinator position is there and making sure those CEOs are trained and up and ready to go makes a huge difference.
So I think everybody has said empower them more. We've had a couple of folks say more resources. How do you come down on that one?
I think district councils are incredible partners to the city, and they should have more resources. It's always
from the city?
From the city, and then they should have access to better resources from the sales tax program, which is the city as well, but not property tax levy.
Well, on that tax note, let's draw this first half to a close. A tremendous round of applause for all 5 candidates. So we're going to get off the stage. So we're going to have our candidates get off the stage, and we're going to welcome to the stage the cast of the Theater of Public Policy. So depending on how you feel about all of this is either a nice break or something to get through. Most likely a wonderful theatrical experience, because the cast of the Theater of Public Policy is going to take everything that has been talked about, all of the things that the candidates have brought forward, and they're going to bring it to life on stage through entirely unscripted improv comedy theater. So everything that they do is entirely made up on the spot. So be generous and make a big round of applause for the Theater of Public Policy.
Hi there, St. Paul. 2021, and I can't believe I'm here. As you remember, announced my fringe candidacy on November 4th after the T2P2 forum. I broke into City Hall, put my name on the ballot by hand, and by some strange series of coincidences, won the election. So it's been a rough 4 years.
What the mayor's meaning to say is that he's very glad to participate in the democratic process. It's been
awful. It's been really awful, and I want to come to terms with that. I mean, I have absolutely no experience. I'm really terrible at leadership. I installed canoe routes in every building. I thought that would be a good idea. It didn't, and it wasted a lot of resources.
It is a program that's in process and developing.
The real problem is, people have been telling me to include more clowns all over the city. And it turns out people don't really like clowns. So I'm sorry about that.
Fun of the arts, and we're going to pivot on
Frankly, that matters less in the winter, and it matters even less with the apocalyptic hellscape mushroom cloud that lingers over the city. I'm really sorry about the thermonuclear war, by the way. I did not mean to inflict that upon all of us, but it turns out we're resilient. Aren't we?
Guys, it's good news. It's going to be a new day for district councils. All the candidates will lost. Things are going to change. We've been promised resources.
The biggest mistake they ever did was give us a budget.
Though there is the problem of no one has given concrete plans. We don't have any dollar figures, so we can't really spend the money we don't have.
Well, look, we've got to take this foothold we have
Yeah.
and really push our advantage. I think that we need to...
Does that need more meetings?
More meetings?
More meetings?
Yes, but also potlucks. Okay, because we need to have hot dish.
Hot dish?
We need to have Jello mold salad.
I like it.
Yep. And probably some kind of bar. I don't mean like alcohol bar, like lemon bar.
Hey! How's it going?
Oh, pretty good now.
You interested in a community benefits agreement?
I know about all that now.
I think we're ready for a community benefits agreement.
I don't know about
Melissa.
Listen, community, listen.
I'm all ears.
Listen.
I'm all ears.
Community benefits agreement. Me, you, equals us.
Oh, yeah. You know what else I want?
What do you want?
I want the community benefits to have some teeth.
Ooh!
I want our agreement to have some teeth.
I like when you use your trumpets. Oh! I tell you, I've been burned. I've been burned by other agreements.
That they have it. Mine will not have a clawback.
But I have
It will not have a clawback.
one more time. I want to be, there, one more time. Our agreement will have to be just uniquely between you
Yes.
and I.
Yes,
And all of them, but mostly you and I. I'm going to need you to agree to a few things.
Oh, whatever you want, Melissa.
Melissa?
Melissa.
All right, Melissa. I'm going to need you to agree that one, I'm going to need at least $20 from you tonight. Please.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah, that's all right with me. Yeah, you have me at the low.
Great. Hello. $20. And also, will you take my kids trick-or-treating? I just.
Hey, here you go, man. Go on.
Yeah, man.
Hey, great practice, bud. Yeah, you know, we really need a stadium. We really need a stadium. You know, hey, I mean, the Saints have a stadium, the soccer team has a stadium. Why doesn't a professional lacrosse team have their own stadium? Minnesota Swarm!
Excuse me, losers.
Yeah.
Oh, what's the three-pointer?
Just because they're the only team that Minnesota can be proud of.
Yeah, you know, I'm really good at putting the ball in the...
They really know their stuff.
Oh, don't get me started on it.
The nuances of the game. They'll talk game strategy for hours. And you'll be hooked on every word they have. They are so brilliant in the mind game of basketball.
You know, I think we should really bring some basketball strategy to our lacrosse game, and maybe that's how we'll find success.
Yeah, show us the ropes.
Yeah.
How can we win more? Well, you know, first, you gotta grab the orange part.
Orange part.
Yeah, that's the biggest problem. That's why you don't have a stadium. You don't have orange balls.
I'm gonna start taking some notes on
Yeah,
this.
maybe
Orange part.
Orange, and then when you throw it into the end zone, you really gotta use like your lats, your
you hang your shingle and open up an erotic cake bakery, the business doesn't roll in like you think it would. But maybe people are just not celebrating birthdays anymore. Erotic cakes might not be big business. Erotic cakes may not be giving you enough revenues to be pretty beyond our wages, but they're cakes that are sexy for community. That's something that I see. I just want to hire more employees. I want to create jobs and give people a chance. So come to my business, I want to hire more. Check my glass display, see what's in the store. We have lots of shapes and many sizes. We have buildings that are I know what I'll do. I'm gonna go to the next Matt Groveland with a whole bunch of cakes. Gonna go to that district council meeting, get involved. Yeah.
Listen, I started paying my workers $15 an hour, and there was an unintended consequence. I didn't really didn't see it coming, but well, they started buying tracksuits and dressing all the same, and now they're rolling around in matching tracksuits, and they want more money for matching sneakers, and I just know how to nip this in the bud. I mean, pretty soon you're gonna be seeing them like, oh, see?
Hey, what's up? Thanks
Hey.
for all your money.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So nice of you. Oh wait, you had to.
Well, the research wasn't in from Austin yet. This is just what happens to people when they get $15 an hour for a raise.
I had no idea this was gonna happen.
Matching jackets. Where's yours? Why aren't you wearing one? We don't have enough money to pay ourselves. Oh, that's too bad.
Well, John Smith.
John Smith.
It's in St. Paul. You know him.
Hey, we all live in St. Paul.
He's a man.
Checks out.
Hey, wait a minute. You know what? I'm fed up with it. I am not going to enter any more raffles. Let's pool our money and build a baseball stadium. Yeah.
I got $75.
Yeah, I got $36,000. There you go.
I've got $1 million.
Wow.
It's in back. I don't have it on me.
Wow.
You guys really want to do this?
Yeah.
Do it. All right. Do it. Let's have a team.
Oh, I know these guys are playing lacrosse.
Yeah?
They're looking for a stadium.
The Swartney Stadium?
The Swartneys.
Let's do it.
We're that team. We're the
Yeah.
It's gonna be great. We can do all the things we've ever wanted in a stadium. Like have the stadium really match the theme of the team. Like, we'll put a biodome in there. We'll fill it with mosquitoes. Make everyone have a swarm. Right? It's gonna be great. Mosquitoes? Well, I thought that's swarm. Isn't that what it's about? I mean, I thought brainstorming sessions were all about any idea, right?
I mean, that was a good idea. That was a
Thank
good
you.
idea. It was very good. But I think we were leaning more towards like a bees, like something aggressive. Like
We're still here.
Okay, so what we're going to do right now is we're going to welcome to the stage our 5 candidates. So make their way back to their seats, and while they do, we're going to get ready for the part of the show that you will have an opportunity to ask them questions. But we like to give you a chance to practice. So if you would like to turn to the person next to you and ask them a question that you actually would like to ask of one of our 5 candidates or all of our 5 candidates, you'll have a chance to rehearse a little bit and make a friend. All right, ready, set, go. Okay, we could do this all night, but I know already that there are a bunch of questions out there, and I want to try and get to as many as possible, so I'm going to ask the candidates as much as possible to be brief, or more particularly, be to the point. So we are about 5 days away from the election, so at this point, I think we should just get to what are you going to do and how? Here.
Hi, wow.
So it's super high.
Yes, it is. I'm Martha Petty, and I live in Highland, and I'm really concerned about the Ford plant site. I'm really concerned about congestion. I'm concerned about the height of the buildings. Is it a done deal? And what are each of you feeling about this development site?
I'll go. Right now in St. Paul, our city is growing really fast. We've added over 20,000 people in the last 7 years alone, and we're slated to continue growing over the next 20 years. We have to start now to build St. Paul for the future. We know that we have an urgent need to add jobs and housing in St. Paul and to expand our tax base to grow to sustain our growing population. And we know that the Ford plant is our once-in-a-lifetime biggest opportunity to do so. And so I am looking forward to taking full advantage of the opportunity that we have on the Ford plant. I know there's concerns about traffic. My perspective is this: if we can build the type of community, we have an opportunity to envision a 100+ acre site. If we build the type of space where you don't have to get in a car to get a gallon of milk or take your child to the playground, if we connect it with the rest of the city by bike lanes and transit, and if we continue to expand that street grid so we expand the connectivity, I think we can make the most of the opportunities we have on the Ford plant while managing traffic at the same time.
In the interest of time, I'm going to just ask, so we have someone there who's supportive of it. Specifically to this question, is there something that's different if you're mayor about how the Ford plan moves forward? If you're mayor, what is different? Oh, everyone's just very thirsty. That's okay. It's hot under the lights.
Well, so I on the council, and I made it very public that I was against the Ford site plan as it is, because I believe that when the whole plan was set up to maximize profit at the expense of neighbors turning against each other and dividing this community, and that's not what we need in this city. What we need is that we need more unity. We are hardworking. We're sophisticated. The folks in Highland are also the social worker, they're nurses, they're teachers, and they've invested so much in that neighborhood. We have to also respect that they don't want the kind of congestion over there that necessarily be in.
If you're mayor, so what happens?
So as mayor, I would bring the community together and to find a compromise because, for example, I like to keep those ballparks. I think that they're productive, they're good for our kids. Right behind those ballparks is a senior housing, and they love looking at those kids. It really brings lots of health, mental and physical health to them. I am very concerned because, you know, my work with the Vintage at Snelling and Selby, and then the work that I'm seeing right now at Marshall and Snelling, there's lots of congestion. We shouldn't. And with that in mind, I do support affordable housing. That's why I champion to get more affordable housing in that location. But at the same time, we shouldn't sacrifice our health so that big corporate can profit from our community.
I just want to try to her question. So is the plan that was passed, and I know you voted against it by the city, is that a done deal? Is that moving forward? Or if you're elected mayor, does something tangible change about it? Tom Goldstein, if you want to jump in, sure.
I mean, I'm gonna be consistent with what I said on NPR yesterday, which is that it's not done. I don't care what the candidates say. It's not done because we don't have a developer. The cleanup is not completed. I think that the vote was premature. It was done for political reasons. Every major development deal usually involves zoning changes. You don't change the zoning before you know what's going to happen. But what we haven't been talking about is this $275 million upfront subsidy that is really the city borrowing $90 million, and almost $180 million of that is interest, and it only yields $25 million for affordable housing. So while I support all the principles, and more traffic alone is not enough of a reason to oppose it, it's because, you know, a little more traffic, if it's going to be for the greater good, I think should be tolerated. It's the fact that we're moving ahead without any details wrapped up, and we do not have the money to put into that. So when you talked earlier in the first segment, can we do both? Anybody who says we can do both is not realistic. We don't have a boatload of money just sitting there to be accessed. So we always have to make choices as a city, and putting $275 million into a project like that means that a lot of other things are not going to happen because we're going to be subsidizing that for 25 years. And
so
that's
Pat
the main
Harris, you said
reason
that
for my opposition.
You said that we could do both. Are you unrealistic?
Yeah, I don't think so. And I would say on the Ford site, though, you know, I represented that area for 12 years on the St. Paul City Council, and I do have 3 children that play on those ball fields, and I played on those ball fields as well. And I'm not sure I was that great of a ball player, but it's okay. And but I created the Ford Site Task Force. I created the Ford Open Space Task Force, and I do believe that vote was premature because it took all the authority that the city had, most of the authority that the city had, and gave it away already to a developer. And so I'm concerned about the density there. I'm concerned that we're not talking about jobs. I'm concerned we're not talking about locally owned retail, and I'm concerned we're not talking about enough green space at that site. The Open Space Task Force report was very clear at the financial value of green space, to the surrounding neighborhood, to the city at large. And I can tell you this, we've all been talking about the need for more ball fields and lacrosse and just general passive open space in the city. We've been talking about it for 40, 50, 100 years. And we get a 148-acre site to look at that, and people aren't talking about it. So there are congestion issues to consider. We do need housing there, but I definitely think we need more green space.
So do you agree with Tom Goldstein, then, that it's not a done deal? That this
I agree with Tom, it is not a done deal.
So
here's some.
I want to ask, and Thao, I'll give you a chance to answer this first, because I don't I just don't know the mechanics of this well enough. So the city council passed it. What is the agency or power of a mayor or a next city council to change that, undo that? What, I don't actually know. What can you do?
Well, you know, there's a movement to put on the ballot referendum from the people opposing it, you know, a ballot referendum to reject it. So, you know, frankly, if that's successful, we'll have to go back to the drawing board. If it's not successful, I still think there is more opportunity for input. And I want to be clear, because I do support increased density, and I support having enough green space, and I want it to be a carbon neutral development. But I think, you know, until we get a developer in there, that's at the point at which the rubber meets the road. That's at the point we do, you know, a much more in-depth transportation and transit study to see exactly what the effects will be on the surrounding area. So regardless of what happens, there are going to be more opportunities for public input. And I think that all of us see that and are going to support that, because the developer is going to have to come up with something that fits generally within the plan, whatever the plan ends up being.
Okay, Thao, yeah.
So procedural-wise, in order to reverse the vote, someone who voted in support of the plan or the ordinance would have to bring it up, bring it back to the council, and then for a revote. So Councilmember Prince and I, we wouldn't be able to do that because we voted against it. It has to be the other five, one of those five, right? So that's procedural on the city council. As mayor, what I would do is I would work to make sure that there is a health impact assessment study, and then there's also, that would be a driving force in how much density we should have, and then that should encompass also part of our community benefit agreements, which we have been entertained tonight about. And so that will help drive the development and not what we have right now. And I think when we do this, this allows residents to be at the table, to work with the developer, whoever that person might be, to make this project work for all of us and not just some of us.
Okay, I'm gonna go here. We have another.
My name is Mahmoud Kanyare, and I am a Muslim from Somalia. I want to ask, in what ways will you make sure that all of us are welcomed in your city? As a Muslim from Somalia, I have suffered discrimination based on my religion and based on what I believe. Get out of our city. You don't belong here. How will you make sure that I can pray safe without worrying about someone bombing in the mosque while I'm praying, just like it happened in Bloomington Mosque? How will you make sure that our places of worship are safe and secure for all of us?
And I'll just very much encourage the candidates to give us specifics. I think that everybody up here agrees that we want to have a secure, safe community. What can you do as mayor that can answer his question?
Thank you. Thank you for the question. It's an incredibly critical question right now. The first thing you can do is be there physically. When Dar El Farouk was bombed this past summer, I was there physically. I got a chance to pray right in the grass with members of that community. And we prayed, we knelt in the grass and prayed for peace and prayed for whoever would do such a hateful act. Being there physically is critical. That's why what I said earlier is so important. We have to shift what we think of as creating public safety. When we talk about public safety, and we all say it's a top priority, we're always talking about adding police, and that's why in our community right now, we spend so much more on police and fire than we do on recreation centers and libraries and our schools, and the things that the after-school programs that kind of connect people to prosperity. But beyond that, we look at our diversity right now in St. Paul too often, we look at it as a problem, and that's where our perspective on people who are different comes from. We look at it as a problem. We talk about diversity, and it always leads us to say, how do we close gaps and how do we teach children English? We're never talking about how we open up the global economy that should exist in a city as diverse as St. Paul, and the fact that every company in the world is looking for a multilingual workforce. We should be teaching all of our children a little bit of the Hmong, Somali, and Spanish that their children speak. And so the focus is saying our diversity is not a problem to solve in St. Paul, but this is the foundation upon which we're building our entire city economically, in terms of public safety, in terms of educating all of our children, and definitely in terms of making sure that every person in every community knows they can feel safe asking for help from the St. Paul Police.
I have a feeling, I'm going to just say, I have a feeling this is a question where there's going to be a lot of applause lines, and so I just want to try, I imagine all the candidates want to get to this, so I kind of want to just give them all a chance. Yeah.
The mayor sets the tone. He has the ability to set the tone, and the tone is
She.
I didn't say he. I said the mayor sets the tone.
And then you said he.
Well, sorry, sorry for the gender error. Yes, obviously she or he. So please accept my apology. The mayor sets the tone, and hate will not be tolerated here. We obviously need to show support. We've seen what's happened nationally with a president who said hate is welcome here. And so it's simply leading this, showing that hate will not be tolerated, participating, showing up at forums where we're supporting people, but also creating opportunity for inclusiveness, which we've not done in the city, and also having an inclusive administration so it's not just lip service, so people are included. We have a separation ordinance here to make sure we enforce, but specifically to this gentleman's question, a lot of leadership is just showing a good example that it will not be tolerated and it will not be acceptable in St. Paul or anywhere else.
How have we not done that previously, as you just said?
I think on a local level, I think our leaders have been very supportive and have generally done the right thing, but you're competing with a president who seems to be on everybody's mind every day, which is why getting people to pay attention to municipal election has been tougher. Everybody follows Trump's tweets. So it's, you know, there are, I would say it is a minority of people that are acting out, and we need to prosecute them and make it clear there will be consequences and find ways to use resources to support these institutions so that they are protected. It's not just a St. Paul issue, it's community-wide. But I think in Minnesota we have done a really good job. I've been to several forums that were held by organizations and Muslim organizations to deal with this. So I don't think it's a problem here for the political response. I think we're dealing with a national issue where hate is back in vogue now, and it's scary. And so our leaders all have to stand against hate.
I want to give all the candidates.
Thank you, and thank you for choosing St. Paul as your home. You're welcome here. This is an immigrant town. This town was built on the backs and labors of immigrants, and so thank you for choosing this town and all the contribution to our arts and culture in the city of St. Paul. As a political refugee and immigrant myself, I know exactly what that's like when you're discriminated. And so when at the time candidate Trump said he would ban Muslim and build a wall, I wrote a resolution in the St. Paul City Council to ban Trump, his bigotry, his Islamophobia and sexism from the city of St. Paul. Now this is important because he hadn't shown up yet. Okay. And but so then when he also did the travel ban, I directed the city attorney and the human rights department to work with any family that may be stuck at the airport. These are track record that I've done. My goal is to protect everybody in the city of St. Paul. As mayor, I will direct our police chief to work with the FBI, the state police, and the sheriff department to share intelligence to make sure that we find out who all the hate groups are, right? We keep a tap on them. There's a couple of them in this state, and we want to keep surveillance on them. At the same time, we want to beef up our hate crime ordinance. So if we need to be strict and tough on these hate crimes because they have no place here. At the same time, we already identify where all the mosques and temples are, and so we need to strategically place our police officer and patrol car in the area so that if anything happens, we can provide help to the community and prevent these sort of domestic terrorist attack. Now, at the same time, I've already built my work. One of the things that I did on the St. Paul City Council is create the emergency alert system. This alert system identifies and alerts people exactly where the active shooters are, might be, or a abducted child or any terrorist situation. And so we want to build on that. I like to implement what's called a shot spotter that can triangulate where all the guns and the shots are being fired from so that we can keep the bad guy out. And this is, it's part of it is the strategic tactical things that we do on the ground on a day-to-day level, but at the same time, it's also us working together together as a community, sending a strong message into hate groups that we're not going to tolerate that, because this city belongs to all of us, and we're going to draw the line, and we're going to defend it, and we're going to make the city work for all of us, and we're going to unite across race and culture.
Yes, good, thank you. Okay.
In addition to gathering the intelligence about hate groups, I think it needs to be shared with the community. And I've been really specific in some of the ways that I think that the police culture can change, including asking and expecting that our beat officers are meeting with faith leaders and meeting with community leaders on a regular basis to talk about concerns in the community, to prioritize the needs of the community, and so that we can face the community, you know, police and community together. I think that's really important. I believe that all officers should be able to, if not say a little bit in every language, they should be able to carry cards that have basic phrases translated that they can share depending on you know, what calls they're called on. I've been on a couple of ride-alongs, and at the second one, there was an incident where there was a fender bender and there was a Latino family involved, and we had to wait 20 or 30 minutes for a Latino-speaking, you know, for a Spanish-speaking person to show up, who was an officer who could deal with the situation. And, you know, in addition to hiring officers who reflect the community, including women, because we know that if you get to 30% women, culture starts to change, and people start to call each other on misconduct. You know, we need to expect that every officer knows what to do in a situation with someone from another country who's speaking another language. And they also need to be able to share resources, you know, so that they can say, if there's a domestic violence incident and, you know, a third of the calls are domestic violence, you know, where are the shelters? If there's substance abuse, where are places that you can get treatment? Where are places you can get free or reduced legal help? And at the end of every kind of interaction, I believe that we should be handing out cards to the people that have been helped by the police that say basic things. You know, did you feel the officer showed you respect? Do you know what your next steps are regarding this incident? You know, is there anything else you would like us to know? And it has the badge numbers, and that all of those cards, those postage paid cards, go back to the department, and partly because of that feedback is how we determine how people are promoted.
I have a couple of follow-ups, but I want to give Pat Harris a chance.
Yeah, it's a fantastic question, and there's a lot of ways to look at it. And I will just say that my 5-point plan on gun violence does ask for more resources for the police department in a lot of different ways, but it also has a point in there about making sure that our police department is working with community organizations and faith leaders and being out there in the community, reflecting the community, being amongst the community, and just being present out there on a daily basis with our schools and with our faith organizations and our community organizations and district councils and everything. So I believe strongly that the police department needs to be amongst the community. I will also say that in 2004, I authored and passed St. Paul's Sanctuary City Ordinance, and I know Donald Trump wants to take those all apart, and I did that in St. Paul with Jewish Community Action, and Tom was part of those meetings back in the day, and it wasn't a popular thing to do in 2004. I stand by it here in 2017, and like I said, Donald Trump wants to take it apart. I'm going to protect that as much as possible so that we can continue to be a city that's respectful of all. And it is just about having the mayor be a part of the community. I kicked off my campaign at the Darul Uloom Islamic Center over on the east side of St. Paul because I just believe this is one city. And if the mayor and our community organizations and everybody are out amongst the community, we're going to show the rest of everybody that this is not a community where we tolerate any hatred of any kind. And that's how I'm going to be as mayor.
So we raised a really important thing in here that I know there are a lot of questions, but I feel it's very important to get to this. Pat Harris, you very specifically said your 5-point plan includes an increase for the public safety budget and whatnot. I'm wondering, Elizabeth Dickinson, for the things that you're talking about, does that require an increase in the budget for public safety?
You know, I wouldn't. What I would say is that it's more about how the people are deployed and what the expectations are. And anything that we're creating a new expectation for, it needs to be part of what they're paid to do. So it's not something that we're expecting them to do off the job. We're expecting to do them, to do these things as part of the job. Honestly, I would want to wait on that. In terms of hiring more police officers, my main concern is that the ones that we are hiring, and I know that the police are paying for, future officers of color to go through Century College, and 55% of them are people of color. My concern is that the force really reflects, whatever hiring we do, that it really reflects the diversity of the community, and in particular, that we do have more women, because that's the piece that's going to change it even faster than people of color, is having more women, because the culture really does change then.
So I want to try and quickly go through. So you're saying hold off on hiring more officers. I've heard Melvin Carter speak on this question very specifically. So can I just sort of go through who thinks that the St. Paul Police Department needs more officers, and you would be actively working to hire more officers, and who
I think they might need more, but I'm not sure they need 50. That's what my question is. It's an open question.
So more, but not sure on how many.
Yeah.
My plan proposes 50 over a 4-year period, because I just really believe in my 12 years of the city council, every mayor that I work with and every council, we are always trying to find more resources to get police officers out of their cars and into the community. And I believe we need to expedite that by hiring more officers over a period of time, so they can work in the faith community, so they can develop relationships, so they can reflect the diversity. There are a lot of retirements, yes, but we've got to move faster on making this community, our police department, more diverse. We have to get them out into the community. And I'm not saying a phalanx of helmeted officers that are running through neighborhoods. I'm talking about people amongst the community.
As much as McAllister would push for a phalanx, but Thao, more or fewer officers?
Well, so I think that we have to be practical, right? We're in a budget crunch, and so my approach would be that, look, as a person who works in IT, we look at the data and we do the analysis. If our department calls for it, then we have to find the funding, the resource to do it. I think any good city administrator would want to have more police officer on the street, in the community, but these have to be qualified candidates. Folks with good character, folks that's not going to harm or hurt our civilian when no one is looking. That is why I work very hard to champion the body cam, to make sure that we can hold our police officer accountable.
So on the question, that is
the police officer off the civilian review board, so we can build those trust that we need and the transparency that we need. At the same time, I was very proud of the work that I did to help fund the state-of-the-art police training facility, so we can train our police officer in critical incident training, so that they can help de-escalate and work with the community to build that trust.
So if I put together, you said if the agency was asking for it, you think that it's important, and you said, of course, an agency would ask for it, so that sounds like a yes, we should have more officers?
I think we need to have more quality candidate and a police officer who will work with our community, who understand our culture, our language, diversify, male, female. I think that's important to have. I think if you talk to any city across this country, they would say they like to have more police officers, but good police officer with good character that will work in our community.
I'm guessing nobody up here is in favor of hiring bad police officers, but
So if we're going to have police officers stationed in front of every religious institution to protect them, we would need quite an addition to the force. So
do you support an addition?
If the police chief brought a proposal saying we need this many officers and this is how we're going to deploy them and these are the results that we're going to get, I would certainly consider it. But I would point out that when we hired about 20 new officers, we were told we were at full strength. And before I would approve any new officers, I would want to do a top to bottom out of the police department to look how we're using the existing resources, because it's one of the most expensive parts of the budget. And I would not just unilaterally say we need more officers. We might be able to use our officers more effectively, and we might need to hire more civilians to do things that police officers do not have to do, to free up our existing officers to actually do policing. And then, of course, everything about hiring, that diversity, reflecting, all of that. But no, I would not automatically say we need more officers, because I don't believe in pandering to people's fear. Part of the reason we're in this problem is that we're not investing in communities, we're not investing in our neighborhoods, we're not using resources wisely to provide recreation opportunities and educational opportunities and creating jobs. So we're setting the situation where we have people turning to hopelessness and getting into violence because we don't have the protective environment for them. And police officers is not going to change that. We need to invest in people again.
Okay, so that was. I hope that this isn't a true false at the end, because I don't know exactly if I could, but I'm going to give Melvin Carter.
I'll give a direct answer to the question, and that is this. I've worked in executive branch governance before with Chris Coleman, and over the past 4 years with Mark Dayton. Spoiler alert, every department every year is going to ask for more employees. So of course the chief is going to say we need more employees, and we have to work with the chief to figure out what the right kind of strength is. But here's the thing. The core challenge with our police isn't that we have more officers, and I think we need to challenge the notion that in order to do community policing, we need more officers. Community policing is a repetitive term, right? If it's not community, it's not good policing. We need to bake that into our entire culture of our department. And the challenge is this. This summer, my home was broken into. Have you heard about that? This summer, my home was broken into. My neighbor saw something wrong and called me right away. He didn't call 911. He didn't call the police. And I asked him why, and he said, well, in case it was, a friend of yours coming to feed your dog or something, I didn't feel comfortable calling 911. When people don't feel comfortable calling 911, that's the problem. And the challenge is the fact that we've got a systemic racism built into our culture of policing. That's what we have to address.
I just want to, since I was so, I was very cruel with everyone else. You did say you were going to answer. So is it, do you have a strong position on more or less? More or fewer, excuse me?
I'm not running to add more police officers. My public safety plan, I presented my Community First public policing plan last month, and it says, we have to reject the notion that we always need more officers, because if we add 50 new police officers over the next 4 years, that'll cost us $40 million over the next decade. Okay. Now, if we look at our public safety challenges in St. Paul, the places we have the deepest public safety challenges are the places where we've defunded our recreation centers and libraries. If we just hire police officers, we'll never have enough, because that'll be why we can't afford to reinvest in our recreation centers and libraries.
Okay, I know, if you can make it brief, because I've done a terrible job of getting to questions.
The other piece that we need to look at is the training. I've been on the curriculum for some of the feeder schools, and not all of the feeder schools, the Century colleges, have the same level and quality of de-escalation training, implicit, explicit bias, community policing. I think we need to standardize those. I've talked with the community engagement officer, and he said that's a great idea. We should get, members of the police on the curriculum development. And the other piece that we need to do is make sure that the continuing education that police officers do are regular brush-ups for the kinds of relationship building skills that are at least as important as knowing how to use a gun. And one of the things that I've proposed is let's bring the community into some of that de-escalation training. Let's let them see what's going on. And to give the police absolute credit, they said, we're going to go you one better. We think we should bring some of the community in to help design the curriculum. And that's something that I would like to help facilitate, as we go forward.
We're never going to get to another question, but yes.
I'm just going to say, if we're talking about community policing, we're never going to have community policing if officers don't live in the community. Only 16% of the officers live in the community now.
What would you do to make that happen?
I would, when we're people coming to the academy, to award points for people that are going to live, officers that are going to live in the community. I would incentivize through workforce housing and other things, but make it clear this is an expectation of the job. By state law, we can't require it. I would work to try to change the state law so that people who serve this community live here, because if they're not part of the community, they're never going to know the people that they police, and we're not going to see a change in the culture. I'm sorry, it's just not going to happen.
Okay, I'm cutting it off. We're going to do one more. I'm going to, this gentleman, oh no, see, we're losing
we're talking a lot about the allocation of the city budget. I want to take a step back and look at the source of the budget, a large part of that being the property tax levy. This year you saw a 30% increase in that property tax levy. What are you going to do to prevent that from happening again?
Bum, bum, bum. Who wants to jump in on property tax levies first?
So, this is a serious concern. The city of St. Paul, we need to stop chasing people and business out of St. Paul. And so, I'm proud to vote against the levy increase. I live in Frogtown, West Side, East Side, the neighborhood that get taxed the most, and because we have seen home value increase in these neighborhoods the most. And so one of the things that I'm going to do is I want to do a data analysis across all the different departments so we can tell where all the bottlenecks are. We can tell who's on Facebook 4 hours a day when they're supposed to be providing city services, right? So once we have those data, I want to make it public. And this is a public conversation. So once all of us see where the bottlenecks are and where we're doing well, we can then, you give me the political leverage to go in there and to make those changes. I'm proposing a culture, efficiency, and accountability that we spend our money the way that if in our home, we don't do wasteful spending. Why should the city do the same thing? So once we have these analysis and we create this culture of accountability, efficiency, you'll have a direct impact on the tax levy. Now, at the same time, when I knew that this was happening, that's why I worked to champion the pilot program. This is a payment in lieu of taxes. We've seen this work in Boston and other cities so that higher eds and hospital can help contribute to our city services to alleviate some of the tax expenses. Now, this is in concurrent, this is happening while we're developing the small businesses, the immigrant, the minority, the people of color, and millennials and women business to lift the city up. And then also at the same time, we need to make our assessment more fair. Right now, if you live on a corner property, you have to pay assessment on both sides. Right? If those of you that live on a corner property. So we need to change that to make it more fair, so that you only pay one side, just like the folks that's within the corner property, because they also benefit and they have more parking. So
okay, so I appreciate that three-part answer. I'm going to just propose, probably everybody wants more efficiency. So let's
But it's a complex issue.
It is a complex issue.
I'm explaining because I grasp it, right? So I got to explain and make sure that we're seeing the same thing.
I'm just going to ask the other candidates, yes, if there's anybody who wants to speak against efficiency, do that. But otherwise, let's skip that part.
I would, a year ago we had an $18 million gap in the budget and we had $18.5 million for a soccer stadium. Anybody here who says they're going to hold the line on property taxes at the same time that they're okay with exemptions for the Saints ballpark and the soccer stadium and the Ford plant is not serious about it. I would not have raised taxes when we had money for those things. I would only raise taxes as an absolute, if there was an absolute emergency. But already we have too many exempt properties. I would work to try to get nonprofits to pay their fair share along with the Boston plan, which Elizabeth has talked about regularly and now Di is talking about, where you actually assess property owners, the nonprofits, and try to get
But you can assess them, I thought, is what the court ruled.
You send them a bill, it's the process of, there's a public, I don't want to call it shaming, but it's a voluntary program.
I'm a son of a Lutheran minister, I get shaming.
We have far too much money. $21 million a year on TIF funding that's money that does not come to the city budget because of all the deals were cut. So I would stop cutting deals for wealthy developers. I would stop exempting properties for stadiums. And anybody who says they're going to lower the property taxes when they're in favor of those things is not being honest.
So we've had actually two candidates now talk about this voluntary or pay-for-services thing. Is there anything to add to that or anything different somebody's going to say to answer this gentleman's question?
Sure. I went to virtually all of the pilot silent meetings that the Citizens League had. And what we're talking about is asking for voluntary contributions from Big Ed, Big Med, and the nonprofits. It'll come to about $2 million, which is not going to fill all of the holes. But one of the things which I think actually offers even more opportunity for the city is the services in lieu of taxes, because I believe by having better relationships for instance, with some of the larger private educational institutions, that we can replicate some of the success, for instance, with Hamlin Elementary and Hamlin University, which has a multiple decades-long program where they send over faculty and staff to mentor and coach. Hamlin Elementary, which is primarily it primarily serves students of color. And their test scores and their achievement is significantly better because of all of that extra attention that they get from Hamlin University. I see a program where we can expect that from all of the different large private educational institutions, which can improve our educational system and make a real difference in achievement and actually just forge the kinds of relationships, the kind of community building that we want to see. And that's something that I would really want to focus on as mayor.
Okay, Melvin Carter was trying to get in previously. I don't.
Go ahead.
You can go, Pat Harris.
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, I will tell you this. I mean, I have 18 years of public finance experience in the private sector. I've been through the budgets. I've been working with cities and counties and school districts all over the country for almost 2 decades. In my time on the city council, we had some of the worst budget times in St. Paul's history. Governor Palenti took $32.5 million in local government aid from us and just said, poof, you can't have it. And so we had to lead out of that. And you lead out of that by doing things like managing your fund balances better, like debt restructurings. I did a debt restructuring on the parking ramps that saved $8.5 million. Like looking at how we prioritize spending, and look at how we do business operations and how we do all the financial services that we do and how we do our investing in our long-term investment portfolios. And you do that and you get out of these crises that you're in. I will tell you this, that payment in lieu of taxes programs are worth trying. I'll say that, they're worth trying. But every time you attach the word voluntary next to the word money, it typically doesn't work, and it also, I guarantee you, it won't be stable.
Worked in Boston.
It won't be stable funding for this city, and I can tell you this, I do oppose the 23.9 property tax levy increase. When you add it up with the other jurisdictions, it's nearly 35%, and my parents lived on Social Security, okay, and their Social Security was going up this much, which was nothing. Their property taxes was going up this much, it threw them out of their house. And we have to think about all the citizens of this community, new Americans, seniors, young families, people that want to live in their homes, and property taxes can't throw them out. We have to be smart about how we do budgeting, and then we'll get through it.
Okay, Melvin.
So we have a city accounting. We have a city accounting department, and I think all of us, I mean, the real challenge isn't making the income, the revenue, and the expenses match up. We could all do that with our city accounting department. The real challenge is knowing where to spend and how to prioritize so that we can maintain and even lift our quality of life. We exist right now in this perennial cycle of budget challenges, and we're every year trying to figure out, do we cut services on the thousands more people now who rely on public services, or do we raise taxes on an already strained property tax base? The way out is to think about growth. We have to think about growing our property tax base, and this is frankly why our positions on the Ford plant are so important. The Ford plant, the question really the underlying question isn't just how we'll zone one parcel, it's when we have big opportunities, will we have the courage to meet those big opportunities with a big vision? The answer has to be yes, to build St. Paul for the future, to sustain our growing population.
Okay,
the Ford plant. We're not going to expand our tax base if we're giving away the taxes. A $275 million subsidy on the Ford plant will wipe out any tax increase. So we all want to see growth. Everybody talks about expanding the tax base, but you can't expand the property tax base if you're subsidizing that development, because it eats up the gains.
Thank you for saying that. And thank you for saying that, because I do support a pilot system. My pilot, the payment in lieu of taxes, my pilot system would be unique in that, I'd look at in-kinds as well. So our universities, for example, when they help a low-income student have access to a higher education, that should be part of their contribution to city building. For our hospitals and healthcare systems, when they help people be able to afford healthcare and go to the doctor, that should be part of it. I also definitely support being more selective when we give out tax increment financing and other tax subsidies, but we have to be thinking, how do we grow our city to sustain our population?
Okay, I'm going to cut to our last question because we're over time, and I want to try and make sure that people actually stay for the last round of the Theater of Public Policy. Oh, don't laugh. That's not a laugh line. Yeah. Thank you. Let me ask this as a final question. Well, does anybody up here early vote? Did anybody early vote? Well, no? Because it's good to vote on election day. If you weren't running, who would you vote for?
Bernie Sanders.
You'd write in Bernie Sanders over all of these people?
No, you just said who would I vote for? I'd vote for Bernie Sanders.
Look,
no
so
one's going to give you a straight answer.
I think we got some really good quality candidates here who sacrifice their time, their family, lots of different things in their life to want to lead this city. And so, I appreciate all of them. Now, I would ask that you all rank me as your first choice. But if you chose any of the other candidate, my colleague up here first, I would love to be your second choice. Now, if I wasn't running, my mom and I voted for Hillary Clinton to be the first woman president of this country. And I grew up in a culture and a society where men has all the power. And I see that in our society, and I'm one of those guys, one of those folks who I don't like the way the status quo run. I don't like the way things are running because it doesn't benefit all of us. It benefits the elitists. It benefits folks that are well connected. They have the inheritance, the money to buy the opportunity. So with those logic, I would, if I wasn't running, I would, and Elizabeth was running, I would rank her first. Yeah. And
Tom Goldstein, they called your bluff. Somebody answered.
And you know what? We need to be able to have real honest conversation with people in our community. What is there to hide? If one of us win, the city of St. Paul win, right? And so I think it's important for us as elected to be able to have these honest dialogue with folks.
Is anyone else willing to answer that?
I would write in my League of Minnesota Cities professional, extraordinary, competitive runner, brilliant wife standing back there, Laura Harris. You want to be mayor, Laura?
Well, as I said on NPR, I think that Elizabeth and I are most politically, our views are most consistent. So that would give people some idea.
Elizabeth, you're getting all kinds of love up here. Are you going to give any back?
I know. Put me in a really hard place. What I would say, I would echo what Pat said actually right before we came on, which was that he said something to the effect about how much respect he had for all of us and that no matter who won, that the city would be in good hands.
All right, well, on that very magnanimous note, please, a tremendous round of applause for all of these amazing candidates for being here. So, don't all leave. I will just say quickly, in case you've forgotten, we do have ranked choice voting. Actually, here in St. Paul, you get to rank up to 6 people. So you could both write in Pat Harris's wife and still vote for everyone up on stage in some capacity. So, on that note, I'm going to turn the stage over one last time to the Theater of Public Policy. Just like before, everything's made up. So please, a generous round of applause for the cast of the Theater of Public Policy.
Simply jump into one of the reservoirs, they'll shoot you
it's not for witch fishing, I'll tell you that.
Hey, Joy.
Yeah.
Remember when the improv group was just a bunch of dudes?
Oh, man.
Oh, it smelled so bad!
The beach funk was mighty.
Oh!
It was everywhere. But now we're in a new age.
Yeah.
We're in a new age of theater. Public policy. There's women. Yes, connecting, high-fiving, spraying perfume in the corners.
Oh, yeah.
And next thing you know, we're gonna get some black people in here. One of these days, speaking of public policy. One of these days, but that's a long time from now. Right now, let's just embrace what we have, how far we've come. Who knew in the year 2021 they would finally get some women in this group? I think it's time we shake some things up. How about you?
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
Wonderful idea.
Yeah. Let's mess with them. Hey, man.
Dudes. Yeah.
Oh, man.
About 20% of the group now.
Yeah. About 20%. I think we have a few things that we might want to switch up a little bit.
You know, actually, I heard that the culture doesn't change till you're 30%.
That's where we were going to go for. Remember, we were actually waiting until 30 to do anything about that.
Yeah. I've been trying to figure out whether I did the math right on the improv stage. Are we actually 20%?
Well, there's 5 of us.
Performers.
Technically, you're 40%.
Oh! We changed culture though.
Well, yeah, let's change the culture then.
So I guess we start by
big issues really came up, you know, like, do we want bad cops or not, you know? Everybody needs to figure it out. I heard you talk about this. What's his view on that, huh?
I know.
No one's asking that question.
Look, it's tougher than I thought.
It is tough. Or, you know, for example, do we want to increase the deficit or not? You know, two sides to the issue, and I think both sides need an equal amount of time.
I like stuff.
I like stuff too.
Gotta pay for that stuff.
Gotta pay for the stuff.
You know, what's 30 million here or there?
Politics is hard.
I mean, look at it this way. Everything we're talking about, bad cops, a deficit that's out of control, these are all the plots of some of our greatest movies. And there's always a scrappy group that gets elected, bands together, and comes up with a solution that fixes it all.
Go on.
I think, and I don't have any evidence for this, but I think that can happen to us.
Dual mayorship?
You and me?
Yeah? Ding dong! Here's your round cake!
Honey, the most amazing thing happened. I got pulled over for parking, and the cop was being really rude to me. And then I threatened to write a negative review on Yelp, and he totally backed off. Well, you know,
St. Paul, the mayor, to do that.
Right, and so I think this is something that we need to implement in many more things. I mean, you know that one time that we saw that burglar break into our house? And the neighbor didn't call 911? I think we have to write a negative review for 911.
Oh my gosh, yeah!
They're not the kind of place you would want to call to get an emergency. That's got to be at least just 1 star.
Yeah, that's gotta be. And I think that is just brilliant. And we can do this for our neighbors as well.
Yes.
Yes. You know, Frank doesn't de-head the dead parts of his petunias. Oh, that's 1 star.
Absolutely.
That is disgusting how he leaves his petunias out like that.
That has always bothered me.
It's always really bothered me. That's why we're such a good couple.
Yeah.
Dead parts of petunias. Ding dong! Oh! Ding dong! Come in.
Oh, thank you. Hi, it's me. I'm the mail lady.
Oh, hey.
Yeah. I was thinking it was the erotic cake person, but I'm glad that you're here too.
No, I passed by on the way out. Say, you know, I can't help but notice that I went on Yelp yesterday, and I only had a couple stars for you guys, and I was wondering what the possibly F could have happened.
It's just that.
Yeah. So I'm reading your mail? Is that hard for you?
Well, I had to pack some Crate and Barrel.
Yeah, I remember that package.
Yeah.
Carry up those stairs for you.
Yeah, and usually you put it like out of the rain. Yep, and this time there was part of it that was in the rain, and it got all wet.
Oh!
Yeah.
That's hard for you.
It's really hard, but it would have been easy.
But you got it packed.
I did get my package. It was wet though.
No, that's great. No, that's great. No, just hold up. You hold up. Say it.
So I want to say thank you one more time. Can we, one more time, I want to do a thank you to the Uptake and everybody who's been watching live. Thank you so much. Thank you to Citizens University and the Joy of Voting Project for making all of this happen and for giving us ice cream. Thank you to the North Garden Theater for hosting us, and please, if you, and I assume most of you live in St. Paul, please come back, even if you live somewhere else. Come back and visit this theater regularly because it's a wonderful place and it's wonderful to have it here in this town. Last and definitely not least, a tremendous round of applause for all 5 candidates who joined us this evening. As I said to all of them before we started this, I understand that an invitation to be part of an improv comedy mayoral forum is A, not a typical invitation, and B, something a good campaign manager would just keep out of your inbox to start with. And yet, they all did it, and they all said yes, and I am incredibly appreciative, as we all are, and by all likelihood, one of those folks is going to be the next mayor of St. Paul. So thank you so much to all of them for being here. Thank you to all of you for being here. Did you all have a good time? Yay! So last thing I'll say, in the spirit of what was it, pilot, non-obligatory volunteer contributions, we're gonna pass a hat around later to help cover some of the costs for the cast and things like that. So if you had a good time tonight, please leave something there. But until then, I'll say that we were. My name's Tane Danger, Chad Dutton on the piano. All right, thank you all so much. Don't forget to vote. You have 4 days. All right, good night.
1,600 minutes, 525,000 moments so dear. 525,600 minutes. How do you measure a year? In daylight, it's and nuts and cups of coffee, and inches and miles and laughter and striving. 525,600 minutes. How do you measure a year in the life? How about love? How about love? How about love? Measured in love. Seasons of love. Seasons of love. Yeah! Love.